Hello
Hello
everyone,
everyone,
I am
I am Abhay, and since I am the observer for the today's group, I will start by briefly sharing my selected systems thinking habits. At the end, I will also do a short closing reflection based on our discussion. The habit I have selected as is looking for interconnection and relationships. The main principle behind this habit is that we should not look at the problem in the isolation. Different factors in a system are connected, and a change in one part can affect the other parts. I think this habit can be especially useful in the college group project. For example, imagine that our project is not being completed on time. The immediate thought might be that some team members are not working enough, but instead of blaming one factor, I would try to understand the connection. Maybe the requirements were not clear in the beginning. Because of that, the tasks were divided poorly. When one person becomes overloaded, it delays their work. That delays integration, leaving less time for testing. So the problem can actually look like this: unclear requirements, then poor task division, then workload imbalance, and then delayed work, then integration problems, and then less testing time. This is the diagram I will use to represent my thinking. The important point is that the final problem may be less testing time, but the actual cause may have started much earlier. To practice this habit, I would take three simple actions. First, whenever I face a problem, I will ask what other factors are connected to this. Second, before making a decision, I will think about these possible effects on other parts of the system. And third, during the group project, I will try to understand the different people's perspectives and instead of immediately assuming that I know the cause of the problem. The main change I want to make is to move from simple asking, how do I fix this problem to asking, why it is happening and what is connected to it. That's the habit I would like to develop. Now, I would like to hear from everyone else about their selected habits. Please carry on.
Okay, so I'll go next. Okay, so is my screen visible? Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Arshman Patel, and as going for the second member in this presentation, I would like to start. So to start with, I would say the system thinking habit that I want to build is just simple to say, but it's hard to practice. That is, recognize that a system structure generates its behavior. Like in the past, when something went wrong in a group project, like all we do in our academics and our work projects, my first question was always used to be like, who is the responsible person behind this? Going forward with this, I want to catch myself and ask a different question instead. Like, what in the system is causing this behavior? So that single shift in the question that I ask is the habit that I'm gonna present about today. Okay. So as this habit says, recognize that a system structure generates its behavior. So this habit rests on one core idea from the course, that is structure derives behavior. as we have covered it in a week 10. So, and the that what particularly it says is that structure drives behavior and behavior drives outcome. So structure isn't after all very abstract thing. It's a thing like roles and responsibilities, deadlines, communication, routines, uh, dependencies between people on a working on a team and a task, and existing habits or process. So the key idea here is that I only fix the visible problem. I'm when when I'm doing so, I'm only treating a symptom. To actually to actually improve that outcome, I need to look one level deeper and examine the structure that's actually producing the problem in the first place. This also reflects a broader system thinking principle. That is, elements in a system are interconnected. So I can't treat problem in the isolation. We have to look it as a whole. Moving forward, where I will actually apply it. So the for the context, I'll apply this in a very concrete or upcoming situation that we face now and then in like group academic project where some tasks are repeatedly delayed. So the traditional approach is a short, familiar loop, task delayed, blame some member, ask them to work hard, and like it feels like action, but it doesn't actually fix anything. The system thinking approach interrupts in that particular loop that we used to take earlier. When a task is delayed, instead of jumping to the blame, I stop and examine the structure. Specifically, I'll check five things that are responsibility clear, assigned, are the deadline realistic, does any person's work depend on someone else's, is there a regular progress, and system check. So, and is communication and is the communication between the each members is happening enough? So those five questions become my diagnostic checklist kind of a thing. Moving forward with the mechanics, this particular mechanics slide shows how the diagnosis actually plays out. A project may happen. Instead of stopping at a person, I look beyond them and examine the system structure. And the structure usually breaks down into three areas: role, deadlines, and communication. In a typical delayed project, roles are unclear. Deadlines were set too late to be realistic, and the communication is irregular. So together, those three issues create a very poor coordination, and poor coordination is what actually causes the delay, not a lack of effort from any one person. So blaming any one person that's not gonna help us in the project itself. That's why the intervention has to target the structure itself. A clearer role, smaller milestone instead of a big deadline, a weekly check-ins, visible tracking. Uh, those four changes leads to better coordination, which leads to fewer delays, which leads to better project outcomes. So the insight is very quite simple. Like changing the structure is often more efficient than simply asking people to behave differently. Forward with the outcomes that could we can expect and that would emerge from it is like if you apply the this habit consistently. First thing that out of the four outcomes that you can expect is better diagnosis. I identify the actual cause instead of just reacting to the symptom. Second, better decision. I choose intervention that improve the whole system instead of patching one problem. Third one is like fewer repeated problems. Because changing the structure prevent the same issues from resurfacing next time. And the fourth would be better teamwork. The conversation shifts from who failed to what we can improve in the system, and which is a much healthier question for the team morale to be asking together. Now, my five-step practice would be to make this a real habit, not just a nice idea. I have broken this into five concrete steps. Before a problem happens, I map the important people. task and dependency. So I already understand the structure. When a problem does appear, I pause before assigning blame. Then I ask what structure might be producing this behavior. Next, I test. I change one structural factor, like a deadline, a rule, or a, let's say, communication routine. Finally, I review whether the behavior and the outcome actually approved or not. So my personal rules that ties this all together is, before changing a person, examine the system. The challenges, like I just want to be honest on this part, like this habit won't be automatic right away. So I have thought through the challenges. So I may static as an instinct, like blame a individual, like so I pause and ask a structural question first. The root cause may not be obvious, so I look at the relationship dependencies and the routine rather than the surface issues. Challenging the structure may require the whole team buy-in. So I'll explain the reasoning behind any change, and I might focus on any immediate results. So I'll make a point of reviewing whether the challenge actually works over time or not. Because the system thinking also means watching for the what unintended consequences down the line that we may face in a future, or a, let's say, project that's going on. So for the closing, so as to close, to sum up this whole presentation, I just want to say that the habit I want to build is recognize that a system structure generates its behavior. I want to move from simply reacting to the problem to diagnosing the system, to changing the structure, to finally creating better outcomes. So I leave you with the thoughts that some of this whole habit, that is better system, can create better behavior. So thank you, and this would be it from my side.
All right, so I'll just present my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Right. I'll begin. Yeah, so I'm Pranav Pandey and I'm the third member in this group. Now, my systems thinking habit is surfaces and test assumptions. So it's a very practical habit for better AI research and academic problem solving. It relies on having an assumption and looking for evidence whilst tackling it. Now, the activity tests theory and the surfaces assumptions potentially with others to improve performances. So, the thought behind this is that my first explanation is a hypothesis, not a fact. Now, the habit itself goes with the following questions. What am I assuming? For a problem, the first thing that I think about is what am I thinking about it? What am I, from my own perspective, so to speak? Now, the second one is what evidence supports it. Now, whatever my assumptions are, what is the evidence behind what I'm assuming? Now, disproving is quite important as it hardens my own perspective. If I'm not able to disprove it, I actively try to disprove my own perspective so that I can get a better understanding and see if I'm correct or not. And missing out, if there's any perspective that I'm missing out. Now, this helps me make assumptions that are visible and testable. Now, where will I apply it? I will take the example of an AI/ML project as we are quite familiar with it over here. So, an AI/ML project or a research task where the initial problem definition may be incomplete. So, the problem can be, for example, I've taken here is the model is performing poorly, which has happened to all of us. We've done the MLP project in which, the first initial test may not come out as great. Now, the assumption is that the data is not the data is the problem because depending upon your data, the model can only perform as good as your data is. Now, the test behind it is to check the data features and the metrics. The insight that you may gain from it is that the issue may be something else. It may not be the data. The decision that you make is based on the test and the insight that you've taken, and then that helps you improve the decision, so to speak. Now, each test changes the next question. Example of it is instead of assuming that more data always results in better performance, we should test whether the quality of the data, the labels or the features, or if there's any leakage or the metric is actually driving the result. Now, what could change about this habit? The habit changes the decision process and not just the final answer in it. So, without the habit, these are two examples wherein without the habit, what could happen and what could happen with the habit. So, without the habit, you've got a problem. You go on for the quick explanation, and then you get a solution, and then there's the result. The risk with it is that the first plausible explanation becomes the final explanation. You come in with something, and then you instantly move to the solution and then to the result. Now, with this habit, what changes is that you've got a problem. You go to the surface assumptions of it, and then you test and then you compare other perspectives, and then you update, and based on all this, you act. So it defines the problem better. It has stronger experiments, and and the decision that you make ends up becoming more defensible because you've considered all the factors around it. Now, how would one practice it? The small routine that one can repeat in every important project decision, in any project decision, based on my personal experience and this example as well, it would be to pause. Before acting on anything, just calm down and write one or three assumptions about it, and then you test. You find evidence that would challenge your assumption. Whatever you believe is the problem, try and find something else that could do it. Now ask, uh, get outside the perspective. Think about what am I missing? What could I be missing? And then reflect. Record what changed after seeing the evidence. So you should record to think about everything and document it for your own improvement. Now, my weekly check would be that did I challenge an assumption this week and what did I learn out of it? Now, making it a habit. The challenge is consistency, especially under time pressure. We all work on projects, and if we worked in the professional setting, applying this, especially when there's the pressure of time, can be difficult. But it's possible. Making it consistent and a habit is part of it. Now, the basic running of it is to pause, surface, test, and then update. So the thought behind it is, what am I assuming? That should be the trigger before making any important decisions. And the basic ending would be that better thinking starts with better questions. When we ask better questions, we are able to think more regarding the problem and get a better solution out of it. That's it.
Okay, I will be sharing my screen now. Is my screen visible? Hello, this is Amit Bhatra. For this assignment, the system thinking habit I have chosen to apply is surfaces and test assumption, but in a different context. I am grounding this in my daily professional context, working at the front desk of a public sector bank's branch, where we process hundreds of customer requests and forms every single day. The core principle of this habit is that a system thinker actively tests theories and surface assumptions, perhaps with others, in order to improve performance. In banking, efficiency is everything. And when things slow down, like when customers repeatedly fill out their deposit slips and account opening forms incorrectly, we tend to operate on autopilot and make assumptions about why those errors are happening. This diagram illustrates the relationship between our actions, belief, and perceptions. A key question this habit asks is how do my past experiences influence the development of theories and assumptions? Because I've seen hundreds and thousands of forms, my immediate assumption is that customers are just careless. But if we apply this habit, I have to step back and what if my assumption is wrong? If I test this theory, I might discover that the system itself is the problem. Perhaps the form's layout is deeply confusing, or it could be a language issue, or it uses banking jargon that the average person doesn't understand. So by surfacing this assumption, I shift from blaming the customer to look at the system failure. To practice this, I must ask myself, when considering a possible action, do I or those I work with ask what if questions? My concrete action plan is to sort of silently correcting the forms and actually ask the customers whether or where they found the document confusing. The main challenges is time. During peak banking hours, pausing to test a theory feels like a luxury. However, this solution is recognizing that spending 10 seconds to test an assumption today might give us the data which is needed to propose a simplified form or document tomorrow, and thus permanently reducing the queue times. So this will be all from my side. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Durai Mohandas. Let me share my screen. Hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, okay. So the system thinking habit I selected is changing perspective to increase understanding. So I choose this habit because in my professional work, I regularly make technical and architectural decisions. It is natural to approach a problem based on our own experience and expertise. But this habit reminds me that my perspective is only one view of the system. To understand the system better, I need to consciously look at it in a different perspectives. The principle behind this habit is simple. One perspective does not show the whole system. As you can see this in the diagram, different people can look at the same situation and notice different things. One perspective may reveal a risk, another may identify an opportunity, while another may challenge the assumption that I have not questioned. So instead of immediately asking, what is the solution? I want to first ask what I might be missing from my current point of view. By bringing together different perspectives, I can develop a broader and deeper understanding before deciding what to do. I plan to apply this habit specifically when I'm making AI or software architecture decisions. For example, suppose let's say we are introducing an AI capability into an existing application. From my technical perspective, I might naturally focus on an architecture or performance or scalability. Right? But before making a decision, I will deliberately change my perspective. So user may focus on usability and reliability. Developer may be concerned about maintainability. The business may look at the cost and value. Operation may think about affordability, while security may identify risk and compliance concerns. Management may also consider scalability and long-term strategy. The purpose is not to make everyone agree, it is to use different perspective to identify things that I may not see from my own viewpoint. That should help me move from purely technical decision to a better informed system decision. Important part is not just selecting a habit, but actually making it a habit. So before any important decisions, I will definitely identify who is affected and ask myself, what am I seeing? What am what am I not seeing? And deliberately seek at least one different perspective. I will also review my assumptions before making a final decision. The main challenge is that multiple perspectives can create conflicting opinions and take additional time. I plan to manage this by involving only key stakeholders, also time boxed decisions, discussions, and using a clear decision criteria. Over time, I expect this habit to help me to reduce blind spots, make better decisions, improve stakeholder alignment, and reduce unintended consequences. My key takeaway is changing perspective helped me to move from a quick judgment to a deeper system understanding. Thank you.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So, good evening, everyone. The system thinking habit I have chosen to focus on is to consider short term, long term, and unintended consequences of actions. The core principle behind this habit is recognizing that the system are dynamic, not static. When we evaluate problem, focusing only on the immediate output blinds us to underlying feedback loops and long-term unintended consequences. Quick fixes often create hidden issues down the road, while true systematic solutions take time to reveal their value. I'm applying this directly to my academic and project work in data science, specifically when designing pipelines, building machine learning models, and structuring algorithms. Let me give you a specific context. When working against tight project deadline, there is an overwhelming temptation to apply quick patches like hard coding edge cases, short shortcutting data validation, or overtweaking hyperparameters just to boost immediate valid scores. Uh, if you if you look, there could be two problems. Like the short-term look, a quick code patch gives an immediate performance boost. It feels like progress, but it ignores the long-term dynamic, like the data drift, poor quality scalability, and code fragility. The system, though, uh, taking time to build a robust modular pattern feels slower initially, but it prevents technical debt and ensures the model remains stable over time. Applying this habit changes my fundamental question from how do I make this work right now to how will this architecture perform 2 weeks or 3 months from now under changing condition. To build this habit con- consistently, I am committing to three specific actions. One is conducting pre-mortems. Before writing any code, I'll run a scenario exercise asking if the pipeline fails 2 months from now, what structural flaw was it? Number two is logging technical debt.
every time I take a temporary shortcut for speed, I will explicitly log it with a mandatory ref- refactoring date. And number three is dynamic stress testing. Instead of evaluating models on a static training data, I will test them against simulated future conditions and edge cases. The biggest challenge I face is time pressure. When submission deadline is looming, long-term architectural health feels like a luxury you cannot afford. To overcome this, I am building explicit buffer period into my project timeline, dedicated solely to refactoring and structural testing, and treating code sustainably as a core requirement and not an optional feature. By practicing this habit, I aim to remove uh, from my being just a reactive problem solver to a strategic system designer. I would love I would love to hear your thoughts on or challenges on balancing long-term sustainability against these short-term deadlines. Thank you.
Is my screen visible, guys?
Yes.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Today, I want to talk about a system thinking habit called looking for unintended consequences. The core idea is simple. When we solve a problem, we should not only ask whether the immediate issue is fixed, we should also think about how our solutions affect other people, other processes, and future outcomes. I will apply this to something we all deal with, college group projects. So before we act, the real question is what else could this change? Why does this matter? First, problems are connected. Nothing in a system exists in isolation. Second, a quick fix can quietly create a new problem somewhere else. And third, decisions can have delayed effects. The consequences do not always show up right away. We map this out. A decision leads to an immediate result, which affects other people, which shapes future consequences, and those future consequences often feed back into our next decision. That is what systems thinking really means, considering the wider effects of an action. Let me make this concrete with a group project example. Say a task is delayed because one team member gets stuck. Another team member steps in and takes over, and on the surface, the deadline is saved. That looks like a clear win, but look closer, that member's own workload becomes uneven. They are now doing more than their share. And if it becomes a pattern, dependencies increases, the team keeps leaning on the same person, and similar problems repeat later. So, short term, we would say problem solved. Long term, new problems may emerge. That is why we should not only ask, will this solve the problem? We also need to ask what might happen next. So how do I plan actually practice this habit? I'm using a simple four-step process. First, pause before making an important decision. Second, map, identify which people and processes will be affected. Third, ask, consider not just the immediate consequences but the delayed ones too. And fourth, review. Check afterward whether the outcome actually matched what I expected. The goal is to repeat this until it becomes part of my normal decision making, not something I only do occasionally. Of course, staying consistent with this is not always easy. Under deadline pressure, I will focus this habit specifically on decisions that affect multiple people. When I catch myself focusing only on the visible problem, I will pause and ask what might happen next, and to avoid overthinking every small decision, I will reserve this deeper thinking for choices with wider or long term effects. Done well, this should lead to better decisions, better team coordination, and fewer repeated problems. In the end, the system thinking is not about finding a perfect answer. It is about understanding more of the system before we act. Thank you.
Shubha, if you could just go on mute. Are you actually on mute? So, good evening, guys. My name is Abhay, and today I will be presenting my view on the systems thinking part. And my topic, the habit which I want to develop, or which I should say, not only I want to develop, but I want to present it as something which everyone should look up to nowadays, is before fixing or jumping into fixing any problem, we should actually trace what keeps causing that problem. For example, I have taken the example of submitting an assignment late. Typically, what happens is you have graded assignments, and usually one sits on the last Sunday on which you have to submit them, and approximately during the night. And we blame this problem, and the immediate fix is to use some AI or just call up your friends. And even when you recognize this as a problem, your immediate response to this would be to just start doing it early. My The thing I am presenting is not you jumping to a conclusion, but actually seeing and asking yourself what's causing these issues at the first time. For example, even if I'm when I'm giving this presentation, there might be an issue that I may be hesitant in my presentation. My voice may be not so clear. It might be shaky. So, what might be the reason behind all this? Not that a non-system thinker would just present it as that he needs confidence. That's an immediate solution prescribed by any of the self-help people. But what could be the main reason is if you go by thinking is you might discover that if your voice is shaky or you do not feel all right while presenting something, it means that you have some sort of fear, and you do not need to stop there too. You need to go one step beyond and discover within yourself what is actually causing that fear. So this is the general idea that before fixing a problem, we should really trace into what is actually causing it within the system. So this will be the outline of my presentation. So let's just move over it. So first thing is the habit, which I just defined. That before fixing a problem, we should actually trace what keeps causing it. Let me give another example. For example, today scrolling on social media for long hours is a really big issue which most of our generation faces. So some of you, when I present this problem, will have our immediate solution like keep the phone away, like close your internet for some time and do something like that. And today, some things like those dumb phones are becoming very famous due to this very issue, or quit social media altogether. But all these are, again, these are quick solutions. My ask is do not give solutions, ask what the problem is coming from. What makes you delve into such content at the first place? This will be not a
easy question to ask yourself. It will demand your time, your energy, and it will cause other issues too. But that will come in another slide. So let's also look at an easy example, like for the assignment problem. Let's say your assignment was late. So what you could traditional reaction be was just work faster or just call up for some friend for it. So we do not want to just solve this event, but understand the actual pattern which is producing it. Like, why are you getting late in these submissions? Firstly, at all, what's making you postpone your work? It's and when I say what's making you postpone, some of you will quickly tell like you are lazy or you do not like the course content or whatever. But these two are just immediate labels that you are putting on immediate questions that I ask. Uh, you will have to really sit with yourself and go into the depth of things for this thing that I'm presenting. Next is the principle. All of you are presenting these system thinkings, common topics. So principle remains same. The principle is just you have to step back and just see it for yourself. There is no special principle that I have got to discuss it here. So let's just move on. And where I will apply it. I have discussed pretty much a long list of examples up until now. So it could be readily used in any one of them to solve any one of them for any college assignments, project cycles. I heard one of you mentioned ML projects in your presentation. You could use it there as well. You train a model, and sometimes model does not perform well, whatever might be the reason, and you come up with the immediate set of fixes. Let's say you ask Claude or whatever, you ask your friend, and he says the data is the issue or anything is the issue. Before jumping to an immediate conclusion, you should really test what's the actual reason behind it. So there are a lot of model testing techniques, and there is knowing what's happening in these black boxes. A lot of research is being done into that area nowadays. So we should really look into what's causing the thing and know it really well before jumping into any quick conclusions at all. And I will like to also say that it's not just where I will apply it. That's a very small thing. Looking into depth of problems is actually a very nice thing to do, and it will. It is not just a thing for these small problems. It is a solution I pose to big problems like climate change, etc. Also, these are not just small things that you can apply to your assignment and get it done and feel good about it. For example, if we see the issue of climate change today, what you will immediately think of is there's too much carbon, and something is caused. Maybe the fossils are caused, burning fossil fuels is causing it or something, and just let's reduce this or something along those lines. But that's an immediate fix. We tend to not look at deeper things when we give these immediate solutions. Uh, my way of also saying it is also that you fool yourself actually by giving these quick solutions, which anyway don't work. We are seeing it nowadays. What's happening with the weather and all. So, anyways, we're not going too much into the philosophical side. Let's keep on seeing this. So, what you might discover once you start this process of reflecting, that each problem is not just a loop. Problem is actually it is coming from a pattern that you have subconsciously adopted, and it's not just today was a bad day or you had a lack of willpower. The problem has now become a part of the system. And what you also might discover is that small, very, very small changes, not like actually the immediate solutions that we come up are very big things sometimes, but the actual solution that we might come up with after reflecting would be very, very small things, and those very small things can interrupt this entire loop, and these things compound. Like once you broke a self in reinforcing loop like this, these things compound over time. So small changes really affect. And the last thing which you might discover is that the best solution is applied much earlier when the problem actually becomes visible. So, like the presentation example I gave, the solution is not to be applied when you have a presentation in just 5 minutes and you are taking five deep breaths as a quick solution. The actual thing of you asking yourself what's making you giving you that fear should begin ideally 1 or 2 days before. So 5 minute solutions are not what I am proposing. Uh, Going into really enforcing it again, you have to go into the problem and ask what's the actual thing causing it. And now, just like everybody does, I have to forcefully bound this into a three-step process, which I could say like first you have to notice what's happening, you have to trace what's the issue is coming from, and then you start doing the change by bringing in some baby steps. So anyway, I would like to say that all these steps and all is self-help bogus, and you do not have to follow any of these. Really, the thing is to just step back and reflect a little. It's no rocket science. These even look at them, just understand that you do not have to immediately jump to a solution. Think about it, sit with the problem, and sit with it face to face. Let it reveal itself to you. So, what could get in the way of doing this? Ideally, if you are paying attention and you have the love enough, so I don't think that anything should get in the way other than yourself. So, this other than yourself, I will now amplify by giving 2 or 3 points that. Firstly, change is the only constant that I have discovered in nature, yet it is nature's nature to resist change, be it eddy current or human nature, everything resists change. So once you start doing it, you will find yourself giving these lame excuses that I may want a quick fix. It's already too late, and now I cannot do this long reflection process at all. So my advice would be to just okay, 2 minutes won't be a long time. 2 minutes you can pause and reflect on it just before directly reacting and letting your systems that you have cause your body to adapt to all the things. Because once a problem becomes a certainly long time, it becomes your pattern. So you should not just let yourself react and pause a little really. So and next thing is the thinking process may take some time. So you should let it take time. It is worth it. For example, at some people do not even consider it a problem nowadays that uh, we are so much relied on this quick commerce, Blinkit and all, Swiggy and all, and uh, that and the corporate world is now making profits out of this problem that we have created. So these things will take time, and we should let them take time. And the cause may not be obvious. You will have to think hard, and it's uh, not it's ideal or it's not a problem if the cause may be abstract to you. Abstract things are okay. And at the end, I would like to say that the goal is not to predict anything. I am not proposing that you find a global solution that is novel in every way to everything. It's just to stop seeing the problem, same problem in the same way. Just you have to reflect it. I hope I was able to convey my idea without going too much into philosophy. And thank you, guys. That will be all from my side.
So the habit that I picked was seeing the bigger picture. One of the systems thinking habit from this week's lecture, the question I want to answer today is what actually changes when you apply it? I'm grounding this in something real. Right now, myself, I am juggling a course submission deadline, an ongoing research project, and an applications for masters abroad all at once. Here's the same situation seen two ways. At ground level, it's stressful. A report and a demo video are due, a research component I haven't started yet, and a GRE score that's still short of where it needs to be. But at 35,000 feet, that same picture looks different. One deadline is just a single data point in a degree that finishes in 2027. A stalled component is just the next step in an ongoing pipeline. Same facts, completely different breed. This is the core idea visualized. Like the helicopter metaphor from the lecture, you don't just have one altitude, you have several. And each one reframes what matters. Ground level is the week's task. Climb a bit and you will look at the whole new semester. Climb further and it's a full degree through 2027. And at the top, it's the actual career that is built on all of it. The habit is remembering to check all four, not just the one that you are stuck at. So, what do you actually get from doing this? Four things for me. Setbacks stop feeling like verdicts. They are just one low point on a longer curve. Priorities sort themselves out once you see what each deadline is actually serving. Connections show up between projects that looked unrelated, and short-term pain, like grinding through GRE prep, gets easier to justify once you can see exactly what it unlocks. So the real outcome isn't picking the big picture over the narrow one. It's holding both at the same time. That's what turns a narrow picture and a big picture into grounded action. My plan going forward, before reacting to any single deadline, spending 5 minutes placing it on the altitude diagram first. So this is what I personally think about what I could get from the system thinking week from IIT Madras course. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you everyone for sharing your ideas. As the observer, I noticed one common idea across many of our presentations. Even though we selected different systems, thinking habits, most of them encourages us to look beyond the immediate situation. Instead of focusing only on one event or one problem, system thinking encourages us to consider relationships, patterns, different perspectives, and the possible consequences. One thing I found interesting was that the habits can be applied to very different situations. For example, they can help with the college projects, teamwork, campus activities, or the professional situation. For me, one important takeaway from today's discussion is that the first explanation of the problem is not always a complete explanation. Sometimes what we see as the problem is actually just a symptom of something happening every elsewhere in the system. So, going forward, I want to practice my selected habit by asking more questions before jumping to the solution. Instead of asking only what went wrong, I want to ask what is connected to what went wrong. And instead of immediately asking how can I fix it, I want to first understand if I change one part, what effect could it have on the other parts? I think that a small change in thinking can help us make the better decisions and avoid solving the wrong problems. So, my biggest takeaway from the today's discussion is don't just look at the problem, look at the system behind the problem. Thank you everyone for participating. This concludes our discussion. Thank you everyone.
Yeah.